Hello everyone and a very good evening. Tonight is the 19th of January and this is our first 2021 Patreon only Q&A session. So thank you very much for those of you who've come live. We have tonight Lorraine and Pamela and Rebecca and Alison, Caroline, Frances, Jill, Jackie, Jane, Mary and Susan. I think I have a couple of questions from people who aren't here as well. So we'll try and answer your question. Well, I will answer your questions as well. If I don't do it during the main session, for those of you who are not here, please go to the end of the video and I will do it then. Okay, so marvelous. So I've had lots of great questions tonight, and there's a couple of things that I want us all to think about tonight as an overarching sort of theme. One of them is that I always feel when I like January. I think I'm a bit weird like this. I do like January, and I like thinking about, you know, the whole year as this blank canvas and wondering what I might be going to do or what might come along or what I'm going to make happen. And so I always feel quite excited, invigorated by that. And I thought maybe it might be nice to share any of your sort of aspirations for the year harp wise while we're on the call today. And the other thing that I thought will be useful to do in our breakout rooms is Jackie has asked me about plinths and about stalls, haven't you? And so I thought we could do you remember, Jackie, you were at the Pop with Pizzazz kit party? I thought, why don't we do exactly the same thing? I'll put you into 2 breakout rooms and you can show each other any plinth or stools that you've got, or at least talk about them, and then come back and we can share them that way. And then we'll get that variety. The other day in the pop class, we all shared sort of our electric kit, like loopers and things like that. And it was amazing, the variety of pickups, for instance, wasn't it, Jackie, that we got to see in such a short space of time. So that's one of the things I'd like to do. Ethna's just arriving as well, so we'll just welcome Ethna. And let's go. So I think we've got millions of questions tonight. So I have put them in no particular order, but as I say, Jackie's one we'll do in a breakout if we may, that's if that's okay. But interestingly, there's a couple of these topics overlap. So I'm just going to mute everyone. I can hear a lot of sounds for a moment, and you can all chat. Do you want to all wave at each other and say hello actually first, and then we'll mute? Hi.
Hi everyone.
Brilliant, fantastic. Okay, and now I'll do a nitty gritty, and then in the middle you can have breakout rooms and chat. Okay, so as I say, Jackie, you'd asked me about the seats and these plinths, and we'll do that in one of our breakout sessions. And seat height relative to heart, which I think again we'll talk about amongst in the groups, and then we'll come back and have a hive mind on. You've then written, secondly, can we look at right hand palm position relative to the soundboard and strings when playing? Something I've been thinking about again during the technique course. So that is really interesting, because I don't know whether it's just that the technique course brought it out, but Rebecca said as well a very similar thing. She's said to me that I've learned from you that we want thumbs up, fingers down, wrist flat. Is there anything to say about the angle of hand at the strings? Sometimes as I watch pro harpists playing, it looks like the hand palm is almost parallel to the strings, and I can't figure that out with my wrist flat and my hand is about 60 degrees in the strings. Also reviewing notes, I've jotted down from webinars. I found this note, not certain who the teacher was. Technique, second finger, wrist palm visible, best tone with fleshiest part, drier tone with fingers angled downward. So what is the best angle of the hand and fingers for the best tone? So interestingly, Jackie and Rebecca, both those things I believe are asking me the same sort of question. So let's have a look. So first of all, I think in the technique course, I talked about, I'm just going to change the key of my heart. I talked about the some of the pinch points, didn't I? Some of the things, let me pin myself, some of the things that often I've seen people sort of finding with their hand positions that can make it harder to play. And I mentioned one of the ones I mentioned was this slightly upwards tulip position, didn't I, in the video? I believe, I hope I mentioned that one anyway. So rather than having the fingers pointing down, thumbs up, and the wrist quite smooth, we can think we're doing all those things. We can still have our fingers pointing downwards and our thumb up, but our palm can come in very close, so that then our fingers we're very close to the strings like that. But it in my opinion makes it very hard to move. I mean, you can try it this for yourselves. If you think of the handlebars like I've taught you, and then bring your thumbs up, and so that you're like that. So you've got the cupped hand position, and wiggle your fingers from that position, and then just tip your wrist back and wriggle them again. As soon as you tip on this wrist and you start moving things, personally, I find it harder. I mean, and everyone's hands are different. And also, if you imagine the strings very close and trying to move your fingers like that, that's also quite challenging. Whereas you've got this, if you've got the fingers down, you've got this more open space. so I can only teach you, what over the years. I mean, when I've explored, when I've been taught playing the harp, I had an initial experience where really I was taught thumbs up, and everything else was kind of a bit more free form, but I was taught to love music. I was taught so many useful things. And then my second experience was very sort of rigorous classical training of fingers down, and everything must be perfect, and you must be kind of like this robotic, and that will be great. And then I went and explored sort of down folk and jazz roots, and different harpists from around the world, and found that the Colombians play with their hands up like this and damp all the time. And then found that there's one Celtic harpist that springs to mind, and she really moves her whole wrists like this when she's playing a lot of the time, which I was very much told not to do, but I can see how it has great relaxation benefits. I work with Deborah, as you know, and she taught me to allow myself to move more again when I was playing, which I'd had absolutely ironed out of me. And what I'm trying to say, I suppose, is that I'm teaching you this fingers up, thumbs up, fingers down, elbows out, because over the years, having looked at all these, explored many different things, I feel, when I've thought about my tendons and relaxation and things, I've kind of come around to sort of this, I guess it's an amalgamation of many of the different teachings I've met to share with you this way of playing, but this is not the only way of playing. So if you are seeing other harpists playing differently online and in person, that is the way it is. And I believe this is across all instruments, when you even talking to Richard about French horn playing and the embouchure and things like that, you get different advice depending on which teacher that you go to and which sort of school of teaching it's come down through, who you've really your pathway of teachers, as it were. And so but what I would say is that if you're seeing hands very much upright, usually we dropping our elbow and damping and things, that makes obviously the hand drop flat. So that's one thing that you'll see what people definitely do. And then as far as the wrists are concerned, lots of teachers will teach to have a gentle rise on the wrist. And actually, I was taught to be very smooth and flat. And over the years, I've decided that for me, a gentle rise is better. So physically, because it's more comfortable for me, a big one is not great. And then angle to the strings, if you're talking about hands being closer to being parallel, I think if you just experiment with that on your harp strings yourself and feel how it makes your tendons feel, I think you will probably feel that it's easier on your hand not to do this. And I think it makes if you're in that position, it makes it very hard to turn, for instance. And I'm not entirely sure this is specifically what you guys are asking. So in a minute, I'll ask you to unmute. And I know, Rebecca, you can't see what I'm doing, but I think maybe, sometimes it's illusion, or sometimes it's because, we're moving our hands constantly, aren't we, between harmonics and damping and all the different things that are going on. So I think sometimes it can maybe look like harpists are doing things that maybe it's just for a specific moment, and then we're coming back to a thumbs up, fingers down position. With regards to where to play on the finger, I've always aimed to play very near the edge of the finger, with the finger pointing down, because for all the reasons that I've sort of talked about before, with the releasing from the string, it makes it easier rather than having lots of finger over the string. If you're playing on the edge pointing down, you're less likely to hit the neighboring strings, you're less likely to buzz. If you're playing more on the fleshy part, it's a bit harder not to brush the adjacent strings, if your hand starts to become more horizontal. So those are all the reasons that I choose that. But it's really interesting because then you get calluses. How many of you have got little calluses on your fingers anywhere? Yeah, okay. And then when you get a hard piece of skin, have I disappeared off the side? No, I haven't. When you get a hard piece of skin, has anyone ever noticed it changes your tone when you're playing? Yeah, okay. So then if you end up with a hard piece of skin and then you're trying to play this most beautiful, calm, phrased, warm, rounded sound, and then you've got this boing coming off because your finger's got this hard bit of skin, then you're going to get a smoother sound if you need it, if you slightly adjust where on your pad you're playing, okay? So there are definitely instances where you adjust for the sound. And, this is why I try and say, what's most important, when we're reflecting on how we're going to play, are you making the most beautiful sound you can, and are you comfortable while you're doing it? Well, it's a bit of a hive, a bit of a what's the right word? That's filled. That's very fueled, isn't it? That comment. Is it the best sound you can make, and are you comfortable while you're doing it? Because of course that constantly changes, and sometimes if you cut your fourth finger when you're doing a slice of bread and you have to wrap it up in micropore to play, then you're going to play your octaves with 1 and 3 for the most beautiful sound, aren't you? So we do have to constantly reflect on what we're doing, depending on our hands, our, you know, everything, to play nice, to play with the most beautiful sound we can. So, Jackie, may I come to you? What is it? Have I sort of answered what you were saying, or do you want me to go? Can I go a little bit further? Can you show me what you mean with the hand position if I put you on the screen?
Well, it was partly because of what you've just said that I started to really question what I was doing.
Okay, good.
So when I was taught, you know, years ago, I was really, you know, it was fingers down.
Yeah.
As far as you could get them, really.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Which was never entirely comfortable, let's face it.
Okay. Okay.
And what I often found was that when I was trying to use my 4th finger, which I
Yep.
don't know whether I've got very short 4th fingers, but I've got quite tiny hands anyway.
Okay.
My 4th finger would often catch on my 3rd.
Right.
As I was
Okay.
playing.
So you mean brush on the back of the 3rd finger as you were going by?
It would catch like that.
Can you hold your hand a little higher? Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I just always put it down to the fact that it was just my silly little finger. That's all. However, what I also have noticed as a result of really, you know, so many times you've said about hand position and everything, and what I've gradually noticed is that, and this is what I'm quite slightly questioning, which is, you'll be able to help me, I know. Well, having done the zombie,
yeah,
and then come in,
yes,
I think in order to adopt the finger position I was taught like 15 years ago,
yeah,
I think what I do is I turn my wrist slightly away from me.
Okay, can you again lift your hand very slightly higher?
So it's almost like, you know, that's your kind of playing position, bending at the
yeah.
And
yeah.
what I think I do is in order to try and point further down,
yeah,
which is what I was originally taught.
Yeah.
Without realizing it, I think what I've been doing is that.
I'm sorry, your hand dipped just below, just at that moment again.
I'm almost doing that.
Oh, you're turning your hand away. Okay.
So I'm not angling up or down, but I think I'm turning. My wrist is flat, like I think it's meant to be.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm doing, in order to accommodate the position I had indoctrinated.
Yes, no, that's what I mean. We all do, and it's fine, Jackie. Don't worry.
And so that's why I've been watching you a lot, see what you do, and you don't do, as far as I can see.
No, I don't think I do. No, I mean, I had tendonitis at university. I still have. Have I shown you my scar? I'm very proud of my Harry Potter scar. I try and show it whenever I can. And so I think it made me, you know, post kind of stopping heart, really, because I had to wait for it to recover. It made me really reflect on it. So I think this is, and then the Alexander technique and things sort of show me to try and move as little as possible. Really, it's this kind of lazy / efficient playing. You know, dropping your fingers down as low as you can. Was this without bending? Was this sort of? Okay, so I mean, I can see the benefit of that, because, you know, it means you're very unlikely to do that. For instance, I can see loads of benefits to that. But I think you would have to tip your wrist, as you say, and I don't know what it's like to wiggle your tendons on a tip wrist, whether it's okay or not, and if it's not causing you pain and you're getting around, you know.
By doing that movement, that is when I catch more, which is why I thought I'd ask you about palm position, because if the palm is more facing the soundboard or the strings, and
so I think on this I can only tell you what I'm actually doing myself. How's the best way to describe that? Rebecca gave an angle point, didn't you? So can I remember my geometry well enough to think of this? 45, 90 is 90 is across, isn't it? So 45 would be so it must be at about I'm at about 35, I think.
Okay, Shelley, maths was never my strong point.
Okay, no, okay, I was just struggling on that too, so that's fine. We'll move along swiftly. Okay.
Yeah, but I can see.
I mean, you know, I'm aiming for that handlebars idea.
Yeah, and it's
and then bringing the hand up, and then trying to actually get this definitely came from Alexander technique, not from harp teachers. That, you know, they're trying to really have everything dropped and as neutral as possible, and so in order to get my wrist where I wanted it to be, the Alexander tutor got me to really think about the minimal movements I could do with my shoulder, and then with the elbow to create the space. So it was all about really using, I guess, what does your hand need to do to be comfortable and to play, and then what's the least you can do with the rest of your body to achieve that goal, was definitely where that came from when I think about it, because I was struggling with, with all the teaching I was having at the time, with pain in shoulders and wrists and everything. So that's why I was doing that. I can't explain this any better. And this is, as I say, I think it comes back to that Ask 10 Harpists, you get at least 9 different responses. But I mean, I'm almost symmetrical, I think, if I think, but then again, this depends on the harp drop off. If you look, the harp dropping off there, I think the angle of my right is coming up almost at the same angle as the drop off of the harp, curiously, and then everything within my hand is totally smooth and upwards, in a standard position. And that's going to change as soon as I start doing harmonics and all sorts of things. Of course it is, but I think my standard go-to wish is like that.
Yeah.
Can I make myself bigger? Would that help? I feel I haven't answered this very well. I mean, I wonder, Jackie, whether I can do get some better photos of my hand, but I mean, this isn't the way, this is a way. Then I know that's a frustrating thing to be told as well, but you're questioning it because you're wondering if you're doing an unnecessary movement by the sounds of it. And so
also because I think that when I try to correct it to what I think you're doing, I don't catch my finger.
Oh, okay.
So therefore that makes me think, well,
I mean, if I try and do the straighter fingers, I'm immediately brushing my 3 for sure. If I do this, I'm not. But somebody the other day, was it Pat? Pat, are you here? I don't think Pat's here. We were doing something where she was working on finger. No, it wasn't. It was Ivy in a one-to-one video lesson, and she was saying that if she has all the fingers on, we're doing cross fingering, aren't we? I think in an immersion soon. She was finding that if we were walking between these 2 fingers, that 3 was brushing 2, and she was very sort of, what can I do about that? And I said, actually, if I have all my fingers down, I'm brushing my finger 2 as well. I'm not worried about it because it's not changing the sound. The problem would be if I was pushing and getting a twang as well. But if you're not getting an extra sound and you're slightly brushing your neighboring fingers, I'm not entirely sure that's a problem. I'm sure that other people will tell you it is, because I guess it's putting friction in and restricting movement and stuff. But there's certain positions, Jackie, when I'm playing, when I'm still brushing my fingers, I'm sure of it. Does anybody else want to add to that? Does anybody else experience this with brushing fingers, or anything with the drop down fingers or the bend? I mean, the reason for the bend, Jackie, I think that I ended up being taught this way and embracing this particular way is because it does enable you to make all your sound entirely from here, doesn't it? So you've got all these other options available to you, and more squeeze and everything from the rest of the hand, but actually all that you need is this bit, and then you've got a nice sound if you work from the bend. And I think that's why. But then I guess you can do it from here too, but I just really like this kind of strong movement. But Jane's going to add something for us. Thank you, Jane.
I sometimes get the feeling that my middle finger is just too long.
Right. Okay. Well, it is longer than 4, isn't it? At the end of the day, and so I think, often when we're playing, we can feel that, why are we doing the octaves with a 2-finger hand with 1 and 4 when 3 can reach it more easily? So maybe it gets a little bit in the way sometimes. Is that what you mean? Yeah. And I think, the other final note on this really is to say that, again, everyone's hands are totally different, and you just have to, again, keep working with your hand, working what's physically comfortable with you, working with what works for you and makes the nicest sound. I really can't say that enough. I know it's a bit boring, but you can't say it enough. Rebecca, you're here live still, or have you run away? No, you are there. Rebecca, does that kind of cover your question as well, with angle on hand, or give you something to think about? Or would you like to ask something else?
It sounds like it does cover it, and I'll watch the replay. As I was walking along listening, it occurred to me that I raise my right elbow when I play because I don't have a soundboard to rest my wrist on.
Of course, yeah.
Soundboard. So I think now that I realize, that would affect the angle of my palm.
Right. Yes, it will.
Because imagine if my elbow was lower.
Yes.
My palm angle would totally change. So that's just a factor, and it's all fine. And
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah,
if you think
thank
about,
you.
when we all hear, I mean, I've never been taught by a Salcedo method teaching harpists. Actually, it's something I've never experienced, but we all know that they teach, with both elbows up, don't they? And so it's obviously, it's completely possible to play with both arms totally up as well. So, but it's just a case of making sure you're comfortable while you're doing that and you've got your most fluid movement. I mean, I think the thing is that, any extra, I think what I learned through the Alexander stuff, I never realized, at the time, it had such a big impression on my rest of my life, because I didn't have that many lessons. But what I think it really taught me was just like constantly evaluating where you're bending, where you don't need to. What is the minimal amount of effort your body can be making to enable you to make your sound. Because then it's, then when you want to go faster, or you want to practice for a long time or play for a long time, your body is more able to do that because you're not fighting against anything extra or excess, so yeah, I think it's all possible, Rebecca. But yes, let's look in the pop course together on our electric harps at some point as well at your hand position.
Shelley, to do with that, in your Oasis piece,
Yes.
The left hand sometimes goes to like F, D, C, B, C. And if I were thinking that would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, getting back from that 4 is really hard. Should we be using some other finger to keep us on the harp between the 3, 4, 3 thing?
I'm going to have to open the music up to be able to help you with that one. I'm sorry, I can't think of that off the top of my head. Is that all right? I'll open the music in a minute. I've got another placing question, so actually I'll put that in with that one if I may, but that's brilliant. Thank you, Jane. Okay, Rebecca, good luck. Come back to me on that. Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to keep going just for a couple more questions, then I'll get you to have a breakout room together and chat. So Rebecca said, and this ties in with a question from Lorraine. Hi again, Shelley. Another quick question, if you have time. What does it mean when sheet music specifies for pedal harp? I assume it means something about the sharps and or flats, but what would a harpist look for in the music to determine whether it can be played on lever? Some composers seem only to publish music for pedal harp, but I can't believe all of it can't be played on lever harp. Okay, and maybe they say that on their publications because they play the pedal harp. I think, Rebecca, in some instances that's totally true. But there are things that definitely, where do I put the music list? That definitely make it extremely challenging to play things on the lever harp. Now, I'm not going to ever tell you anything's impossible, because somebody will always tell you it's possible, because there's always cheats, there's always ways you can work around things, there's always things you can do. But there are things that will make it so challenging sometimes to change something that's written for pedal harp onto lever harp, that you just have to, I don't know, be sure that be happy and absolutely fine if you are, and please do go for it if you are, but be sure you're willing to put in that much effort if that's the case. So if you pick up, say you're at a music shop, oh, wouldn't it be nice to be at a music shop, at a harp festival, oh, browsing the music, wouldn't that be marvelous? So if you were there browsing the music at the harp festival and you're thinking, well, I really like the look of this book, but it's just got pedal harp on it, and you open it up and you think, right, okay, is this going to be suitable? The things that I would immediately look for was, are there loads of sharps and flat changes straight away? Because if they are you willing to do that many lever changes? And then once maybe you decide there's only, you look at a piece that you like, so maybe Claire de Lune, Lorraine, and you look at it and you think, okay, are there 20 levers, or are there only are there 50 going to be 50 changes, or is there only 4 or 6? And if there's only 4 or 6, then I would start looking deeper at it and say, right, okay, then what's the range like on this? Is it going right down from really low notes I haven't got to really high notes all the time, or is it mostly sitting in the middle range of the harp? Because if it's mostly in the middle range of the harp and it's only got a few pedal changes, then it's probably possible for you to do some workarounds that will make it playable on your instrument. However, you asked, Lorraine, very specifically about Claire de Lune, didn't you? Okay, and I've bought 2 copies. I'm sure I've got more, but these are the 2 that sprung to mind. These are the 2 I've used for me and for students. So one of them is this arrangement, which is a pedal harp version, and it's got 3 pieces in it. And you were asking me whether whether it's okay to play the full version of Claire de Lune on lever, I presume, though, Lorraine. This was the big question for you. Do you have a pedal harp? I couldn't remember off the top of my head. You do. In that case, fine. Okay, fine. You're muted at the moment. I'll ask you to unmute in a minute. So, Lorraine, this version of Claire de Lune, and anybody else who's interested, is in a book of French music arranged by the wonderful Sunita Stanslow. I'm sure you know that name. And in it, there is a very nice lever harp arrangement of Claire de Lune that has the levers all written in and everything's already worked out and mapped out for you to work on the harp. But it doesn't do all the mighty arpeggios, Lorraine, that I think you're probably lusting after. It literally stops very tantalizingly before you get the blah, 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 blah. And I was looking at this, going back to Rebecca's question for a minute, with a thought of, is this possible on lever harp? And when you look at this is a, an endless patterns, endless runs that keep going. I don't know, you don't need to be able to see this clearly, but it's, there's something going on the whole time, isn't there? And where would you do the lever changes, bearing in mind you're having to do, I tried it, I'm not even going to try it for you because it was so dire. I think I can't bring myself to try it for you on the lever harp.
Can you spotlight yourself? Can you spotlight yourself?
Oh, sorry, yes, of course I can. Thank you for reminding me. So it has so many, I replaced the spotlight. There we go, remove spotlight. So there we are, it's bigger now. So here's the thing, if you saw something like this, where you have to think to yourself, okay, maybe there aren't many lever changes in this whole piece. Maybe there are, but maybe they weren't. If there was only this bit, you'd have to say to yourself, okay, but where will I do those levers? There's no space for either hand to really do all the changes that I need. And it's a lot, if you keep flitting between. And I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just, it would take a lot of practice, and that's fine if you're happy to do that. But it's just, are you going to get demoralized in the journey? And if you're not, then that's great. But things you can then consider, Rebecca, if you were looking at music and you could say, okay, well, there's no gap to do lever changes. Would I be able to play that whole pattern with my right hand while I did the left hand? There are often workarounds that you can make, but it is, as I say, if you then look at the rest of the piece, Lorraine, and you look at it and you think, okay, there's quite a lot of changes there, and there's quite a lot of changes there, all with unrelenting semiquavers or 16th notes all the way through. And then, okay, it breaks for a bit there and it breaks for a bit there. Then at that point, Rebecca, you might start to think, do you know what? Perhaps I will find something different for the time being and see where the journey takes me. So when you're looking at pedal harp music marked as pedal harp only, if it's got something you really desire in it, first of all, how many changes are there? What's the range of the piece, the octave range, and then where the lever changes that are in there, do you think that they are possible? Or and then if you really get into a piece, say I got asked to play in a lighthouse, All You Need Is Love, some of you know this has happened to me, on lever harp, and I've only ever played it on pedal harp, and I won't tell you the rest of that story for now. But and you have to work out how to play this piece of music quite quickly on lever harp. You've never played on pedal harp. Well, then you learn, you would find a way, because there is almost always a way of cheating. You miss out some notes, you miss out some levers, you do a cut in the music. There are things that are possible. But I suppose then, when at this point, depending on your point in your playing and why you're playing, it's just a case of, what can make your journey happiest. If your journey will be happiest with this very difficult classical piece that has got loads of levers in it, but you desperately want to play it. And I've been there. I remember being told I was not to go and learn. I'd got invited to play the Mozart Flute and Harp Concerto when I was too inexperienced to play it. And my teacher said, no, you must not go and do that. And I really wanted to do it. And I was very naughty. And I was like, well, maybe I could just do the middle movement. She said, well, maybe just the middle movement. So off I went and learnt the middle movement. And then I learnt the other two movements, and I did the whole thing anyway, which was very naughty of me. I actually went back to another old harp teacher for help with it. I did tell my teacher at the time, but do you know what? I wanted to do it so badly that I worked my socks off and my soul, and I didn't care how long it took, because I desperately at that point wanted to do it. And do you know what? I met my future husband doing that as well. So all these things, you never know what's going to happen in life, do you? So if it's really important to you to learn something, Rebecca, or anyone, if it looks really hard, and if you really want to and you're prepared to go put in all that work, then do. But I would just have in the back of your mind, is there something that I would get more joy from right at this point in time? That doesn't mean I have to totally change it all, and or has somebody already done this for me? Yeah, there we are. So let me see if I've answered Lorraine's question too. So Lorraine, no, I haven't, because Lorraine, you are on a pedal harp. So is it something that you could do on the yes? Going on what I've just said, Lorraine, yes, because I've just said to you, if your heart desires it, but it has got, these they do have a lot. It's got a lot of contramotion. It's got a lot of very big arpeggios in the left. If you did it, you could do. Have you heard me talk about the idea of photocopying the music legally, when you have your own copy, and then cutting up like 2 bar chunks? Have you heard me talk about that? It could be one of the things where you choose maybe not such small bits, but 8-bar snippets of this piece, and just say, right, I'm going to have a month where I'm going to just try and learn 8 bars of the fancy bit of Claire de Lune, whilst doing lots of other simpler things that are going to bring you joy right now, and build on it. But do you know what? The Claire de Lune, it's all arpeggios and chords. It's all shapes that are in the flourishing harpist. It's all stuff that is doable. With lever pedal changes in to make it more challenging. Is there anything else you want to ask me about it? So these are the 2 versions I bought, so I can give you those names in a minute, but yes, what else would you like to ask me?
Well, the reason I asked if it could be done was because I was wondering whether I could simplify it a bit.
Right, okay. It's not something I've thought about. Let's have a quick look. I think it's quite hard to simplify because the harmonies, Debussy's harmonies, are what make it Debussy. So I mean, I'm normally a person who goes, yes, cheat away. I'm just looking at it. I mean, there'd be things like, with these arpeggio patterns, you'd be able to thin out the chords, for instance, probably, but you would then lose some of the rich harmony. The other thing you could consider doing, and I'm just going to just throw out of my head that this is Debussy and try not to mind. I don't mind, it's fine. But these arpeggios here, if this was a pop song, I'd go, just choose the chords. It's just got an A chord in it, just play some A notes and put the tune over the top. And you probably would find that you could get away with it. I'm just, I should have bought the pedal harp out for this. But yeah, I think you could, of course you could simplify it, and you could, things like these patterns that are so big here, I'm in totally the wrong key, but for instance, you've got this pattern here going, okay, I've just played that obviously totally in the wrong key, but all it's really outlining is the the octave in the 5th shape. So in theory, you could do the whole thing with that shape and not move. If you really wanted to, you could work out each little segment and turn it into something that was simpler. Like this bit has one of those beautiful runs that goes up and down the harp. And you could change that. So what's that? That's a 7th. It's a G7 chord. So rather than it's not in this key, but rather than doing all over the harp, you could just do it up and down in one place, couldn't you? So there's always this possibility of taking, just like we do with pop or Celtic music or traditional music or anything like that. You can always do that, and of course that's what the piano simplified copies do. But the piano simplified copies and this harp one of Claire de Lune almost always stop. I mean, I've never seen one that carries on with the flouncy bits, and I think that will be because it no longer sounds like Debussy once you start taking out those floaty bits. What have you got there?
Yeah, this is from Tunes.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
I remember those.
Yeah. Excuse all my markings.
That's fine.
But yeah, it stops.
It stops the same place, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I suspect that all the simplified versions I've seen do that, and I suspect it is partly because it ceases to sound like Debussy once you really simplify it down. But if you were asking me about any other kind of music or lots of other styles of music, I'd be going, yeah, of course. So why not try it? Why not try it? I mean, and I think you would actually find that these are all brilliant warm-ups. This piece is entirely made up of perfect warm-up bars, with these big arpeggios and lovely chords in the right hand. So why not play around with it and just think, right, I'm going to use this as an exercise and see how I get on with it. And if it's something you really desire to do, use this idea, the snippet practice idea and the exercises idea alongside other pieces. And Pamela, I've said that twice now, partly with you in mind. It's this idea of stretching yourself. If you're going to stretch yourself to a big goal, do it, but make sure that you have got something to remind you why you're on the journey as well, so you don't sort of feel too overwhelmed by that sea of notes. Yeah.
Okay. What's that arrangement then, Shelley?
3 pieces in it. It is, what does it say? I've stuck over the do you know what? Shall I photograph this and put it in the group? I'll photograph the picture for you so that you can.
Thank you.
That's what I'll do. And then it'll have all the text. So I'll just put a photograph into Facebook for you and tag you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant.
Thanks very much.
Okay. I'm not sure whether that was a very helpful answer either, Lorraine. But I would always say, if you really want to, go for it. Just be kind and be aware of what you're going into, and make sure that you are kind to yourself on the journey. Okay, I think it's time for breakout rooms. So actually, yeah, one last thing and then we went to breakout rooms. Alison asked me about some finger placing, didn't you? And this is a really good one, and then we'll do our breakouts. So you said you're in Sylvia Woods, Teach Yourself Play the Folk Art book with a piece, and it had a descending right hand sequence of B, A, G, G, E. I don't know which key it's in, doesn't matter. Okay, B, A, G, G, E. And you said the bracket covers the whole sequence. Perfect. Okay, that would be my first thing to say. That would be what I would do too. But there is another thing I might consider. And then you say, I'm finding it very difficult to keep finger 4 on with the E when the third is playing the second G. And then, is there a technique to make this easier? So yes, Alison, this is so if anybody's ever experienced this, have you ever experienced going and then you want to put this one back on, but you just fall off? Has anyone experienced falling off the harp strings and they don't want to? Caroline's going, yes, I have, yes. So Alison, first of all, it's totally normal. And also you've spent so much time learning to go, or going, you spent so much time doing that. Now you're saying to your own brain, I want you to do that, and now don't let go of 4. I want 2 of those. So of course that's going to be challenging for your brain. So we need to do some things to help your brain with that. So you could do things like just putting 4 and 3 on, and then practicing just playing 3, and you're nodding like you might have done that already. I mean, I would do a lot of that. Then you could do something which is a bit evil, but you could do walking between the 2. Okay, so just practicing those 2. You could then try putting them all on, and someone's just giving this a go, so I'm just going to mute whoever that is. Who can I hear? Okay, I just mute everyone. I can't see who that is. It's absolutely fine to test. It's just I can't. If you, right there, pressing mute. Okay, there we are. Okay, so you could also practice doing, sorry, I forgot where I was now. Oh yeah, just doing, so Alison, having them all on. This is even more awkward, I'm sorry, but you make sure everything's relaxed. And then just play the 3 on its own, okay? So that's also going to be a really good way of practicing this. Then you could also, you mentioned some other thing coming off and then doing that. If you were going to come off, the fingering I would suggest would be to go. So I would suggest doing 3 of them and then actually changing finger if you're going to come off, because there is also this other guidance that is, you know, if you have a repeated note, it's nice to change the fingering on it. So say you had a pattern that went going down the harp, you could play it like that, or you could go. Okay, so when you're on the same string, you can change the fingering, and actually I think that's phrased easier. That phrase is easier. It sounds nicer, easier if you do that jumping. But Alison, my other thing that I mean, we've enjoyed in harp ensemble together, is doing scales rather than all 4 fingers. Is to practice doing scales where you just do 2 and 1, and then you just do 2 and 3. Okay, and you know what's coming next, don't you? Then you can do 3 and 4. Okay, so that one, it's quite unnatural. You wouldn't really ever need to do 3 and 4, I don't think, ever in this particular way, turning under. But I think it helps our brains and our fingers just, you know, connect and know, oh, okay, she wants me to do that thing. And then when you come back to doing, what was it? I forgot what it was now. Then that should then feel easier if you work on all those things. So Alison, those are my thoughts to you. The reason for not coming off and going back on is because you know, if this was fast, then you don't want to have to come away, and you're falling off the mountain, aren't you? So if you don't have to, it's always, it can be very useful not to be able to do it without. And this is going to come up again and again, is when I first read it, I thought, well, yes, you could do that, but actually this learning to be able to do that's just going to be something you're going to want to do. So you may as well do your time at the coalface now, and then it will be with you later. Alison, have you got anything you'd like to add, or any questions for me?
No, that's great. Lots of things for me to try out. So
yes,
I shall work away on that. Thank you for that. Very helpful. And it's good to know I'm not alone.
You are definitely not alone. Can we give Alison a thumbs up if we've ever slipped off the strings trying to replace a finger? Look at that. You got a full house nearly. Okay. Brilliant. Okay, fabulous.
Thank you.
That's what I love about these workshops that we get to do online, actually, is that, you know, you really, instead of being on your own and going maybe with one other person, you get to go, oh, everyone finds this hard. Oh, phew. I thought it was just me. Okay, I want us to go into breakout rooms now. I'm just going to put into 2 groups because we're quite a nice group. We're a select group of 14 today. And in in those groups, could we, for Jackie and for everyone else's benefit, and for Ethna's benefit too, plinths. I know that you've already now got your plinth, perhaps, which is great. But I'd like to talk plinths, legs, sitting, so stools and things at your harps, because I think everybody's been in a course with me where you've been able to access the very dull, I mean beautifully, you know, thought out, not dull at all, it's very dull video about sitting at the harp, and in that, you know, I talk about the height being, you know, really important. And then I think I'm not sure if I tell you in that video, but I definitely sit slightly higher than we're recommended to sit, and I think that's partly to do with being slightly small. So over the years, I've, you know, as I've become more comfortable in my own skin, I now do what I feel is physically best for me. But anyway, see if you can share, you know, what kind of stool you have. Is it a one that spins up and down, or have you got a special one for back, for your back, because there are fancy ones? Is it a bench? Do you like the bench? Do you have, if you just found a chair and put a cushion in it, have you sawn legs off something? Could you share that, those sorts of things? With the plinths, if any of you have harps on legs, you know, do you sit low on the floor, or do you raise your harp up on legs, or do you raise your harp up on a plinth, you know, on a little box? Did you experiment with just a cardboard box to start with? How did you get to your decision where you are now? So can you just maybe go around and chat in your groups about your plinths and things, and then we'll come back and share our discoveries. I actually wonder whether you might be better in slightly, I might going to send you to three groups so you can actually get around each other. So I'll do 3 groups and show you, what do you think? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? What do you think? You can talk about other things if you finish, can't you? So shall I give you 10 minutes? You'll be much rather talk about other things. You can do this really quickly and then just have fun. Okay, so putting into breakout rooms then. Welcome back, everyone. And I hope you had some good chats. Susan's just asked me a question about harmonics. So Susan, I will, if I may, answer this after I've heard back from everyone in their groups. But what I'm thinking is that as you are all patrons, what I might do is find my harmonics lesson in Start Harp and post it into the Facebook group, because then you can see it. Because what all I can do tonight is, you know, a 3-minute whistle stop tour for you, but actually, you know, a 15-minute video where I actually explain it slowly would be far more beneficial to you. And right. You are all patrons, so, you know, I'm happy to give you some of my class materials in that. So that probably is what I'll do, but I'll talk about it briefly as well. Anyway, thank you, Susan. Great question. So everyone else who's just come back, you've just been talking about plinths and all sorts of things. Can I have somebody from each group just to give us a whistle stop tour of the variety that you talked about or saw in your room? I know I'm going to get loads of keen volunteers. Look at that, straight in there. Everyone was like, yes, Lorraine's going to do it. Thank you, Lorraine. Okay, I'm just going to pin you for a moment. There we are. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi. Well, we talked about the importance of your chair, first of all, and the height of your chair. And then we talked about the stools, your harp stool, what you put the harp on, because I was telling the others the story about when I got to the stage with my lever harp where as I've got older I've got a bit more backache and legs were aching, and I discovered that my knees were higher than my
than the base of your spine.
Hips,
and you see lots of people playing that way, and it's a way to play, but for a lot of people it does not agree with us at all. And Alexander technique again would be like an absolute no-no. So that's it's really very, I can't play like that either. I have to make sure that my knees are lower than the base of my spine.
So I had a stool made, and I'm showing the others these.
Brilliant.
To put my harp on.
Yes.
And it was a guy on eBay, and he made it and put it was a child's footstool, but he put the beading around the top. And it cost £40.
Oh, good Lord. That's very good. Jill and I are both open-mouthed, having got ones from somewhere else. Wow, okay, yeah, that's great.
So I think that was basically what we were saying, really. Oh, and we talked about resting your lap harp.
Oh yeah, yes, because this can be more of a challenge some ways, because there's the point of balance has gone to be able to help you, hasn't it? And so unless you put it on something else, so and did you have any tips for that as your hive mind?
Well, Kate came up with a solution that she rested on her father's chair, was it? Father's chair.
Right, yes, Kate.
Is
That's
it
not the
removal?
solution, Kate. You've talked to me about this. Okay, yes. I mean, and it works, Kate, and that's great, isn't it? But yeah, we have to find that's quite specific and niche and an expensive chair, probably. But, so yeah, I think yes. So Lorraine, that's brilliant. You know, you've talked about some brilliant things, and you know, how do we decide what height we need our plinth to be? Well, you know, you have to work away at it, and I've done such things as give people and it sounds awful, but plastic boxes to try different heights. You know, I'm not suggesting you want to ever leave your harp in a plastic box, but you know, to put it on a plastic box, you know, and get lots of different ones and try which height works for you to get the height, the eye level, so that you are sitting with your spine lower than your higher than your knees. That's what I'm trying to say, isn't it? Yeah. And so that you have your eyes sort of around about the top levers or around about the second octave on the pedal harp is the guidance. This is a sort of standard guidance, and so you can have a point of balance on your leg wherever it needs to be, Ethna, to be comfortable for you, you know, anywhere between your knee and higher up your leg. Experiment around with that, and then when you've worked that out, measure very carefully the chair and or the plinth the height, you know, the box height, and find something that's going to work for you. Now there's obviously some leeway, isn't there? But this is so one of the things I was wondering about was whether you guys had wind up stools and things. For me, having a wind up and down stool is really useful because I have several harps that I flip between a lot. I don't have a stool for every harp, so I've got a bench one and I've got a round top one, so I can wind them up and wind them down. Now they're not the most comfortable on the derriere. I don't think the ones that I've got, but they are, for as far as my spine's concerned, you know, and my back and my posture, I find it very useful to be able to adjust all the time. And this harp I've got on Ellen's going to hate me for saying this. I've got this harp on legs that aren't the legs that belong to the harp because I wanted the harp higher. Okay, so really, I think she will not. Please don't go out and ask people for legs that don't belong on harps. But you can make plinths and things, can't you, to do that? Yeah. So because I really just back's more important than anything else, in my humble opinion. So yeah, so anybody from the other group, do you have anything extra or anything else to add? I wonder if any of you've got these fancy chairs. You see, there are chairs people use. Anita Aslin has got one, hasn't she, Jill? A very fancy chair where I think you sit very differently, don't you? And she swears by it. But anyone got anything else to add from the other group? Go on, let's have a report back from the other group. Then you don't have to put up with my voice all the time.
Not really, Shelley.
No.
Except Jill was able to show us all the different stools that she's got for all her different harps.
Oh, fantastic!
Which happened to be within 2 yards of where she was sitting.
Oh, good. Can we have a whistle stop tour as well? Go on.
I think she ought to show them to you.
No, I feel I'm badly done to. I've only got 2 stools now.
Sorry, Jill. So we were discussing stools, that's all. Sorry, Jill, I'm going.
To add, there's a man in Finland who makes these like benches to go under the harps, and they're made so that they actually act like amplifiers for the harps.
Yeah, okay. Yes, this is something that's very worth. I actually meant to mention this in the pop course the other day, that you know what you're on makes your harp louder and softer, doesn't it? The Tivy boxes make the harp so much bigger again, because unlike the one, Lorraine's beautiful one, which I really want now, but your one is open at the sides, but the Tivy one is closed, and so it just acts as another sound box, and it hugely amplifies the sound. So Jane, I can absolutely imagine someone's created ones that are specifically done to be absolutely at the best that they could be to do that. That's a really good point. Are there any other things I can add on this then? I mean, I just think, anything that goes up, and if you only have one harp and you're staying at it all the time, then find something that you're comfortable with and saw the legs off even. What's important is that you're at the right height. Well, when I was growing up, I remember my mum found a cheap old secondhand bar stool and they sawed the legs off to make it the right height for me, and it was perfect. It was meant that I was at the right height and, great. Yeah. What's going through my head right now is I think of all the students that I have that are like, I want a wooden music stand, Mummy. And I think I had to wait till I was 20 before I had one. Anyway, it's just the way things go. And that's great. But, changing the height is the most important thing. It doesn't matter really what it looks like. I know if you want a beautiful one, that's brilliant. But, what matters is the height. So if you have to get an old, terrible, old battered thing and saw it up. Yes, I was going to mention this. I thought about this earlier. Thank you so much for the prompt, Jill. The IKEA £3.99 chair it used to be. I used to have have several of these in my house, and when I had a new student, I go, take this home with you, try it for size, put a cushion on it, find out what works for you. And I used to literally send people home with those. Thank you, Jill. Did you get that idea from me or from somewhere else? I don't know, but no, okay. And they're pretty much a perfect harp stool height for most of us, it seems. So yeah, and it only costs, well, it used to only cost $3.99. Okay, I'm going to move on and hope that I've covered enough. But basically, you can get things bespoke made. There were harp companies that will be already making them. They're just probably a bit more expensive, but they will be, tried and tested. But most of all, it's time for you just sat messing around with cushions. And Helen Barley, who I mention a lot because she is a dear friend of mine, who Lorraine knows. Where are you, Lorraine? You've disappeared from my site at the moment. Oh, you're there. She has little they're things that you use for yoga and stuff, aren't they? Little foam things, and she just stacks them up, depending on which student comes through the door. She would stick another one under their chair until they're the right. There you go, Ethna's got them, yoga-y type things. So you can do anything. Again, I just had cushions, but that worked for me. And those foam things are very stable and great. And so you can do anything that works to play around with your height and then go and get the thing. Don't go and spend thousands of pounds on stuff until you got the height right, because it's actually your time spent looking at your posture and everything that's going to be the most beneficial, and then getting the thing that fits with that. Mentioning music stands and where they should be in relation to music properly. I think we did this in one of these live chats already, Mary. Did we? Anyone? Does anybody remember? We'll try and find out which month it was, Mary, just because I've got so many questions tonight and I've only got 23 minutes left. I'll find you the link if not, but and we can of course revisit that again. But yes, really useful to get the stands at the right height in the right place. That very much alters on depending on who you're working with and what you're doing actually as well. But when you're on your own, it's an important one to get right too. Okay, I think I'm nearly done the questions. I do want us to talk about our hopes and aspirations for 2021 at the end. So I'll just try and finish the rest of these questions before we do. Okay, so Pamela, I hope so your question is definitely related to everyone, first of all. In fact, it's something I probably experienced far more as an advanced harpist, or relatively speaking, than I did as a beginner. So I'm going to definitely address this. Pamela said to me, and I've cut out some of this, Pamela, but you said this may only relate to me, having not had one-to-one lessons yet, pandemic, etc. But you're a good reader, so you can tackle lots of pieces. So Pamela has the blessing of already reading music. And did you play piano, I think, didn't you already? So you've already got, you're a huge amount of skill base behind you that will help be helping you with your harp. So when somebody comes to me for lessons that has already learned piano, it's this huge gift of being able to already be dexterous in both directions. I know it's different directions, but you've learned to go opposite to one another and all that kind of stuff. You've learned to read music, you've learned to practice, you've learned the theory, all that kind of stuff. So in a way, all you have to learn when you then hop onto a harp, if you play the piano, is the technique. All you have to learn is the technique, right? Okay, so that's a very double-edged sword, isn't it? Because all you have to learn is the technique. And so it's one of the biggest challenges that pianists, I think, that I've seen can experience when they first come to the harp is that they're frustrated. I'm not saying that you are, but I've met this a lot, because they're all there, all the notes are lined out in the harp. It's not like trying to find these mystery notes on like a violin or a guitar. You haven't got to like put 2 fingers down or a bow and a finger down to find it. They're there. So as a pianist, you think, well, I can just find my way around, and you totally can. And I had one friend who got a lap harp not very long ago, maybe even at the beginning of all this and all the lockdown stuff, and sent me a video. I was like, I'm gonna do my level 1 start harp, try it, and 2 days later or something, he sent me a video of himself playing quite a complicated tune, all with finger 2 and like this, and I was like, please just watch the videos, because he had all this skill base and wanted to use it straight away. But it's a blessing, Pamela. It's an absolute blessing, all your knowledge that you have, but you have to also would a poisoned chalice be a really mean thing to say about this? It's a slightly poisoned chalice in as much as you just got to be slightly aware that because of that you have to be extra kind to yourself, because the techniques on the harp, technique on the harp is the thing that's going to allow you to be able to play with nice tone, to play with flow, to find your way around. But your ear and everything and your dexterity and all that wants you to jump on straight away to much more advanced things. And so to carry on with your sentences, you then said, I'm going through your teaching technique course, consequently every day when I practice, I am slowing down so much whilst I think fingers, elbows, shoulder and back, and playing fragments. Brilliant. Hence, I'm losing a bit of heart about the pieces, or is it or a piece that is pleasurable? Will I get that? And so this is the thing, isn't it? So if you are have all this wonderful ability and knowledge already, and then you only do tiny fragments of something, it will be frustrating, and so this is why we have to be very careful with keeping you happy while you're learning. And things that you can do is and it's the same for everyone. It's just that when if you begin not reading music and things, you're so sort of tied up in all the other knowledge that you're working on that it kind of, there's no time to think I'm frustrated or bored, or isn't so much time, although it can happen to all of us. Anyway, sorry, I'm digressing. Pamela, things like, so when I've taught about this slowing down and working on your technique and things, I am talking about that because I'm presuming all the other stuff's going on. Okay, if I'm perfectly honest, I'm not expecting someone to spend 2 hours a day, hopefully 1 hour and a break, or and that would be I'm joking about 2 hours, 20 minutes a day just doing slow fragments. I'm not expecting somebody to do that. What I'm saying is that in order to work on corners and smooth things out, that is how you would then do that. There are still so many other ways of modes of practicing, and there's the practicing in being in performance, and there's the practicing being in a groove or something, and then there is the playing something through and allowing mistakes to happen, which often teachers will tell you never to do, but actually it does help you get a shape of something. All these things, I'm sort of expecting the sort of going on as well, and this is meant to be kind of not the cherry on the cake. This is meant to be like the foundation, the bottom of the cake. All right, it needs to be there, all this kind of stuff, but you've got to have your sugary jam, haven't you? And you've got to have the icing, and you've got to have all the other stuff as well to make it delicious and fun. So what I would say, Pamela, is that if you were having one-to-one lessons, you would be given very simple pieces to do when you first started learning these foundations, so you could succeed in making them flow beautifully and sound gorgeous, but without very many notes, in order that you would have time to think on all the placing and everything like that, rather than jumping into, and I'm not saying you are, but say you were like, well, as a pianist, I can play Clair de Lune, so of course I can play this on the harp, because of course you probably could, you would be able to get through this, of course you would, but actually this wouldn't help. This wouldn't, if we went straight into this, it wouldn't allow us time to think about foundations, or if we did it in such a way that it did, we would just be, we would get lost in the sea of notes, like I mentioned earlier, getting lost in the sea of notes. So what I would suggest, Pamela, is that, you're going to want to do music with richer stuff in it than a total simple beginner pieces. And you're not a beginner anyway. I know you're not. There's just taking words from the thing, really. But do things such as take something very, very straightforward, a really beginner's piece, and start your practice with your techniques and your warm-ups and things like that, and then do something, a simple piece, very much in the way that we've talked about, and doing it steady and working on the placing and playing, because then hopefully it would only take you 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 days to get that very simple piece beautiful with all these ideas, so that but something so simple, even if it's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, if you spent some time on Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and worked out the placing and your hand position and everything for that. But the thing is that if alongside that you're doing something that your heart desires and you're really enjoying, but you are, you are cutting a few corners and you are maybe not quite placing where you should be, then you will keep the fire ignited. Hopefully, I'm not encouraging you to do that, but I know it's just one of those things that you could kind of assume is sort of going on as well. And then hopefully the two paths will cross. The work. If I was being really strict and you would come to me and you said, I want to, in 6 months' time, have absolutely total control of every finger and be able to play everything the way I want to, then I would say, right, we must only do this. That would be the way I'd approach it. But as far as keeping the fire alive and enjoying what you're doing, play stuff that you love, play stuff that you want to do, but just make sure that you are doing that in a and shutting it into a having it in the box of where that you're playing totally for fun without so much thought, and then there's the box where you're really trying to sort of move forwards and really get to grips with things as a bit of your playing, so that you what am I trying to say, so that your brain really knows what's going on at either point, so that hopefully they won't muddle each other up too much. Yes, I'm pausing now because part of me feels I shouldn't be saying that, but it's just what I assume always goes on, is that you're doing the slightly more formal practice, but you're also doing some things just because you love them in the background, and I just kind of assume that that's always what goes on. And if maybe I don't say it enough. And Pamela, one of my other favorite things to say on this point actually is have a performance folder where you put everything that you have learnt that you can play very nicely into. So say you love playing Scarborough Fair. So that was a piece that you learned to play and you could play it nicely and you love it. Get a folder and you know, you can call it play, you know, happy tunes or tunes I love or my playthrough file or whatever it is, and put them in. And as you get, you know, further down the line, add more in. Every time you get something that you've actually got, you know, to grips with or almost to grips with, put it in that folder. And then, you know, once a week or whenever you need to remind yourself of the joy of your harp play, get it out and play through the pieces that you truly love, and remind yourself of, you know, how far you've come as well. Because the other interesting thing, Jill, you were nodding, I think you've done this, haven't you? Do you find you go back and find things are very easy that you thought were hard once upon a time? Yeah, so very often, sorry, I saw you did a good, yeah. So you find, don't you, that, you know, things that, you know, 6 months ago you found challenging, if you play it once a week or, you know, once every 2 weeks, once a month, even after you've learned it, then when you go back again and play it, you know, say 6 months down the line, you go, wow, I used to find that hard, but I can do it now. This is great. So, you know, Pamela, that's a very powerful tool in the, you know, in the toolbox of ways to look after yourself, I suppose. And finally, you know, I'm sorry, I'm just worrying about this concept of, you know, you spending so much time being diligent and then losing heart. I felt very sad about it, because the other thing is that all this all this being very good about it will mean that you will get where you want to be faster, because, you know, the time that you're spending now is not going to go to waste, and it will start to become skills that you can just do without thinking, and every day it will get easier, and every day it will feed more into your other pieces as well, you know, and so it's just reminding yourself that every you know, half an hour that you spend doing something where you're thinking about your posture and everything will eventually, it will all come together in a wonderful, glorious feeling, and it will get easier with time. Pamela, don't feel disgruntled by any of it. I felt so sad. Does that give you any hope, or is there anything you want to add to that, or has anybody else got some words of encouragement for Pamela?
That was a great help and an encouragement. You're very tiny on the screen all the time. You're doing that.
Sorry.
There we go. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah. but that's really encouraging.
Okay.
I will get there, I know.
Yes. I mean,
I think it's partly linked with this funny left hand problem,
okay.
but which can, you know, slow me down a bit, but I think the idea of a folder is brilliant.
I think that is a really helpful one. I mean, one of the things, you know, I don't know whether you've ever seen, probably you don't see this kind of a meme on the internet the way I do, but, you know, students at music college and things often get like things sort of flashed up at them. It's like, you know, if you've forgotten why you are on your instrument, why you love it, just go and play with friends and play pieces you love and listen to music you love, and just keep reminding yourself, you know, of all the glorious reasons why we play this amazing instrument. Now, I know you can't meet in a room and play with people at the moment, so I can't help but that way, but, you know, just, you know, hanging out with other harpists and things where you can, and reminding us how beautiful the harp is and why we're doing it, and also being really conscious of the fact that, you know, it doesn't matter if you don't get any of these things. None of it matters. You know, you can play very beautifully right now as you are without doing anything else to the way you're playing. You know, we just you know, if we don't want to seek forwards on certain things, you know, we can all, you know, if I had a lesson with somebody who'd never played before, we could get, you know, any of you taught one other person who never played before, we could get them to play something very beautifully at the level that they were at that 1 hour, that one session. It's totally possible. And so we can all convincingly play beautifully without, you know, slogging away. Now you might be thinking, well, why am I putting all this effort in then? I mean, and there is that as well, but, you know, because there are always other things you can do, but never lose heart, because you can do something incredible and amazing and so many wonderful things already, Pamela. So even if you never did anything else and learn another thing and you just played with where you are at now, you can still make beautiful, wonderful music too, and that's also really important to remember.
Thank you.
Okay, whose etudes would you suggest after the technique course? Oh gosh, well, I love the daily, is it the Daily Dozen? I'll say it is, what, Daily Dozen? That's my favorite. And I also love the can't remember. Do you know, I've done a whole video on this I will get my list from Flourishing Harpists and I will choose my top 3 and put them into Facebook for you. Okay, brilliant. Right, keeping going. I want you to chat to each other one more time. There's one last thing, I think, and then I think I've answered 2 last things. Okay, right, quickly. So this can go into hive mind, and I'm going to put you out in breakout rooms in a moment. Jill said, how do people file their music by different harpists, workshops, warm-ups, bits of download theory, etc.? I have an iPad with stuff on, but also lots of paperwork. My old dynamic harps music, you'll be glad to know, is filed in alphabetical order. Very good. Okay, so when you're in your breakout rooms in a moment, could you perhaps share any ways you have found of ordering your, keeping your music from overwhelming you and being lost? I keep all my single sheets in folders with, you know, like A to B and then C to D, or whatever it might be, and they're all in Polly Pockets, and they all have a number. This is so geeky. They all have a number, and then they're I have an Excel file with them in, which I haven't updated probably for a year now, but that's what I normally do. And then on my bookshelf is slightly more messy, but I have them in categories. So I've got, let's look here, I've got studies, grades 1 to 3, 3 to 5, classical in inverted commas, theory, pop, show, film, orchestral, concert repertoire, I've called that, and world, traditional, jazz, piano, Christmas. So I've got the topics, and then when I'm good, they're not like it now at all, and I have to have a blitz from now and then. They have little sticky notes on with numbers on, and so the film one I can see F2 right on the front. It shouldn't be there, it should be right at the far end, but then, so, you know, they have F1, F2, F3, F4, F5 under film, and then, you know, on under classical it will probably be CL 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So they're alphabetical within their topics, the books. There we are, that's my share. So I'm going to put you into breakout rooms now, and you can all tell each other how you look at how you store your music. And the other thing, sharing one thing that you your main or one or two aspirations for 2021 on your harp. What is it you're aspiring to this year? I mean, it may just be to enjoy your harp, and that is the best aspiration of all, or you may have something more specific. So I'd love you to talk about those things. We have 7 minutes, so if I put you in for 5, that's not very long, and I'll put you in for 7 minutes, but at the end, Lorraine has asked me about the modes course, and so Lorraine, I will speak about the modes course at the end, but then if anyone wants to go on time, they can. So is that all right, everyone? 7 minutes in breakout rooms to chat. Fantastic. Okay then, so shall I mix them up again? Yes, let me recreate so you get remixed up. Okay, so hopefully you've got different people now, and I will see you in 7 minutes. Bye. Thank you. Susan, I haven't forgotten your harmonic question. If you want to stay for 1 minute, I can give you a quick show. Oh, you have gone now, have you? No, you haven't. Do you want to have a quick look? No, you've gone. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video then while everyone's doing that. Okay, I've just invited everyone back from their breakout rooms. And hopefully people will appear in a minute, but probably not. Maybe I should have waited until everyone was here. I will pause the recording one more time. Okay, restarting the recording. So I would love to hear a soundbite from all of you. Your aspiration for 2021 on your harp. Mine is to get the recording of the CD done that didn't happen in 2020 done this year. Susan, what's your aspiration?
Well, my aspirations are to start playing again out. So I have been working on all my pieces and everything, and I'm dying to start playing again. So my aspiration for this week is to send a couple of videos that I've done over the last month and a half to each one of the places that I used to play at, the nursing homes, and just say, just want to remind you, Happy New Year, and I'm still available whenever you're willing to get everybody back again to start playing. So that's my aspirations for this week, and hopefully for the next couple of months.
That's amazing, and it sounds like you're right on it too. Good luck with that, Susan. That's fabulous. Jill, can I hear yours and then Caroline's, please? I can't hear you yet, Jill.
I'm determined to learn Fields of Gold this year.
Perfect. We can definitely do that. That's going to happen. Amazing. Caroline, thank you. And then Alison.
Yeah, I've got 2 things. One's sort of the creative thing to do more of my little videos that I've been doing of
Lovely, well done.
art and poetry, and the other is to improve all my technique, which I'm going back all through the Flourishing Harpist that I only half did when we were doing it, and going through that to revise everything.
Bravo, great aspirations. I love it. Alison, thank you. I'll come to you, and then Jackie, please. Thank you, Caroline.
I just want to be able to convince myself that I'm actually improving. So I think I'm going to have to 3 months and see how I can, you know, if I can see a difference, because it's very hard when you're sitting there going through everything. And
video yourself once a week doing the same piece even, and that would be a great benchmark.
You know, to recognize the change. Yeah.
Bravo. We can definitely, if you do your homework, so start harp, then you will see the improvement anyway. Brilliant. Okay, I'll come to Jackie then next then. Jackie and then Jane, please.
I want to get faster in traditional Scottish music.
Amazing.
Reels and stuff.
So placing and fingering and technique then really. And metronome. Bravo. Brilliant. Jane, may I hear from you as well? And then Francis, please. That's brilliant, Jackie.
I'm trying to become confident again about my technique, because that triple harp is coming, and so I won't be able to see everything I'm doing. And I'm also hoping that when I'm confident about my technique, I'll be more ready to do more videos.
Lovely. Those are all brilliant aspirations. Fantastic. And you are ready to do videos now, so just jump in and do them. Francis, and then Mary, please. And if you need to go, I will understand. Oh, Jackie's still pinned. Okay, sorry.
I've got two really. I'd obviously looking forward to playing with the group again, or playing with other people.
Yes.
just to be in the room with people, and also start a folder of things I can play.
That would be lovely.
I haven't got at the moment. But
definitely do that as well, because you can do that now, and then we can wait for the other thing.
Exactly,
the other thing will come around. Brilliant. I love that, Francis. Great stuff. Mary and then Lorraine, please.
I have to be unmuted. Right. Well, Jill's introduced me to Fields of Gold this week, so I've just sent off for a copy of it.
Lovely.
And I need to use my metronome a bit more to get my timings, because I'm what I call a slow player. I play the notes in the right order, but not at the speed of the pieces.
Okay. In Flourishing Harpist, there was that week about metronome. So use that, please, because that will definitely help on that. But you can definitely work away with the metronome. And then you have, like Alison said, a benchmark as well of your improvement, because you get to see yourself moving along the dial. So that's a brilliant one. Love it. Thank you. Lorraine and then Kate, please.
Well, I've got a couple. I want to carry on building my technique, stuff that I started learning in the Flourishing Harpist.
Right, okay.
And the second one is I really want to work on my confidence to play for others.
Okay, I think we need an immersion on that, Lorraine. People keep talking about this, but yes, I mean, not that I can fix anything in 2 hours, but it'd be great to have a conversation about it, wouldn't it? And when I say fix, I mean, you know, we all wish there was a switch that could be switched on the feeling confident, but there is lots of little things we can do all the time that will help us feel a bit more able to. But you can totally do that. I know you can, and you play beautifully. So it is just a case of getting ready to go out and do it, isn't it? But you could do it tomorrow, and everyone will enjoy it straight away. So yeah, but we can work on that. Brilliant aspirations. I love it. Thank you. Kate and then Ethna.
I'd like to try and play more.
Okay, that's a great aspiration. That's a really good one. Okay, everyone's laughing because everyone's the same. Okay, Kate, anything else? Or is that,
I feel that without extending days, I might be it might be wishful thinking, but you know, I'll try.
Well, let's start with your 20 minutes a day if you can. Yeah, brilliant. Lovely. Ethna and then Pamela. Thank you.
Okay, what I want to work on is dexterity with my left hand. I just want to be much more strong muscularly. And I also want to work on the ability to look at the music, look at my string, look back at the music and find the right spot.
Ah, cool. That's something you can practice without even playing. That's brilliant. You know, you can literally, because it's to do with like the refocusing the mind and the brain, isn't it? Yeah, cool. I love those aspirations, and I love how specific that last one was. Pamela, last but not least, maybe hear from you. I haven't missed anyone, have I?
Sorry, a bit like my question really, as I'm tackling better technique or the right technique, building up a good repertoire that I really enjoy.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Yeah. And whilst keeping the fire alive of excitement.
And having it in a folder ready to
Perfect, brilliant. Oh, well, that's lovely. It was a lovely way to end tonight with talking about your aspirations, because you've got some really everyone's got something completely different as well. Isn't that beautiful too? So well done, everyone, or almost completely different. And, you know, good luck with those. And perhaps we can help each other a bit over the year and check in on how we're doing. You all talked about folders and how to keep your music. So Jill, hopefully you got some ideas from that. And Mary, I think it was the October one we talked about stands and where to put them. So if you want to revisit that, then that's great. And the other question I missed was the question from Jane about the technique course. I am going to do another live session. There was no live sessions ever intended with the course, but I'd love to check in with everyone. So there will be one in February. You haven't had the date yet, and I think that is everything. So Lorraine, I know I need to talk to you about the modes course in a minute, but I'm just going to bring this to an end and say thank you ever so much, everyone, for coming. So thank you to Lorraine, Alison, Caroline, Ethna, Francis, Jill, Jackie, Jane, Kate, Mary, Pamela, Susan. It's lovely to see you here live. And if you're watching the replay, and for Becky, I know you've gone now, Rebecca. We hope to see you again soon. So I'm going to stop the recording now.